Hi, I'm Danny and these are my Diecast Disasters. In this video I will be restoring and customizing a Majorette number 266, the Renault 18. These were produced from 1980 until 1985. The earlier models were yellow or red taxis, and the later models were a couple of blue ones, a darker blue and a lighter blue. I'm guessing this is one of the lighter blue ones. Taking a closer look at this example, we can see somebody's given it a decent attempt at a black paint job. However, they've still managed to get plenty of black paint on the windows, which is going to be the most difficult thing to repair. The wheels are looking pretty manky and worn out. The tow hook is broken off of the rear, and there's also a square hole in the roof where the taxi sign, or on the later models some sort of aerofoil or other bear sign or something, went. There is only one rivet holding this model together. I drill this out and take the car apart. The window and headlight section is stuck on the inside of the body of the car with the black paint. It's not very strong and the headlight parts are very small and delicate. I really don't want to break it. I use my scalpel to carefully loosen it gently, bit by bit, avoiding the more visible parts of the windscreen. Finally, I have enough paint loosened that with gentle pressure it pops out. Although the base wasn't originally painted, there's some black paint on it, so I'm going to have to paint strip that as well. So I pop out the wheels and axles first. I use some poly stripper to remove the paint from the castings. I simply paint some on. After 5 minutes the paint is all bubbled up and wrinkled, and I can wash it off with some cold water. Cold water seems to work better than hot water. Using a wire brush on my rotary tool, I clean up the casting and remove any oxidation. This is actually a really clean casting. To fill the hole in the roof, I simply hold something flat under it and then fill it with some epoxy putty. This is then sanded down. Something to note here, I would usually filler it with this epoxy putty and leave it slightly recessed and then fill it again with some Tamiya putty, because this epoxy putty seems to set harder than the die-cast metal, and so when you try to sand it smooth, the epoxy part tends to stay raised up a little bit. The Tamiya putty is softer and doesn't do this. The roof of the car was given a coat of primer and sanded again. I made a metallic blue paint to paint the car out of some Vallejo off-white, metallic blue and metal medium. The sides of the Renault 18 have a thin black detailing strip. Instead of doing some fiddly masking, I made myself some black stripe decals. These stripes are 1.5mm thick. With the body painted, I moved on to the plastic parts. They're in good condition, but pretty dirty. Here we can see the black paint all over the windscreen and headlight section. Unfortunately, it's gone into the fine detailing lines on the headlights. Hopefully I can get this out. I start with some hot water, not too hot, just from the tap. Then I add some caustic soda. This is just drain cleaner, it's the same thing. Remember never to touch the caustic solution as it will burn you. The windscreen section is left in this for about 5 or 10 minutes. After this time I can see flakes of black paint coming off. After rinsing in some fresh water, the remaining paint is easily rubbed off with a toothbrush. Here is how it looks afterwards. I'm really happy to have the black paint out of all the fine details, and this is a pretty delicate piece, so I just give it a quick polish. Here are the interior sections after a wash in some hot soapy water. I cut off the broken tow hook. I actually forgot to remove a tiny piece of broken tow hook from the base of the car. That was a bit silly of me. From what I could see in photos, most of the interiors of these cars seem to be pretty boring grey and black. So I spray painted the interior with a light grey and then gave it a dark wash. I'm going to use these wheels as they are not low profile and I think they will suit the car. I apply a dark wash as I always think it makes the rims look better and hides any casting flaws. These particular wheels are easy to install as they just press onto the ends of the axles. Here are all of our parts refurbished and ready to go back together. There wasn't much detail on the base of this car and I wanted the bumpers to be black, so I just painted it black and gave it a satin varnish. This casting had quite a thin rivet post. I didn't fancy tapping it, so I put the car together with some epoxy glue and then made a faux rivet out of epoxy putty. Once this had cured, I painted it with the same metallic blue I painted the car with. Before we take a look at our finished Renault 18, let's take a moment to be reminded of what we started with. A worn out old looking Renault with bodgy tyres and a terrible paint job, and paint all over the clear plastic parts. A diecast disaster for sure. And here it is after our restoration and makeover. I think you have to agree it's looking much tidier now in metallic blue, with its nice new wheels, clean windscreen and headlights, and some detailing. Ready now to head back out on the roads, perhaps for a drive in the French countryside. I'm really pleased with how this car came out compared to what I started with. It's the first Majorette model I've done, and I learned a couple of lessons with it, like I should have painted the underside of the interior section black, as you can see it through the base of the car. For those of you who notice that the front left wheel is a little raised, this just seems to be an inherent sort of bend in the car. I fiddled around for quite a while, I just couldn't really get rid of it. You can see it's much worse, and the car isn't really fitting together very well at the front in the beginning of the video. I also didn't really fix the hole in the roof perfectly. As I explained earlier, I should have really filled it with a softer putty. You can see it better here with the car off the turntable. These things aside, I really think the car came out looking cool. While we take a closer look at it, I'll just take a moment to welcome all of my new subscribers and say a massive thanks to everyone for the great comments on my videos. I do try to take the time to read them all. If you would like to help out with the channel, you can check out my Patreon link in the description below. Thanks heaps for watching. If you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe.